Mayhem Makers, I'm Mindy with Quilting Mayhem, and today we're going to talk about how to start sewing together your first set of blocks for your mystery quilt. We're going to take our 6.5 inch squares and we're going to start sewing on our background. So my background's green and may throw you off. You may have white, gray, anything, but my background happens to be green. So we're going to start just by putting right sides together. We're going to sew, strip down each side of these squares and then press them open. So I'm going to go to the machine and we'll show you how this first part goes on. And I'm not going to bother pinning it. It should be just fine. All right, so now that I have a strip on both sides and I made sure they were lined up and didn't have any extra over the edges, I'm going to take them to the iron and I'm going to press my seams open because that's what I like to do. If you want to go one side or the other, I recommend pressing them outward or whatever way is going to be the darkest fabric. So if you're using a white background, you actually will want to press towards the inside of the block. So we'll show you the next step in just a minute after I go do some ironing. So now we're going to put on the next two strips. For this I am going to use my magic pins that I love just because I don't want my pieces to go over the edges. So once I'm working in larger pieces, I like to actually pin them to keep this strip from kind of scooching off the edge. It's going to keep it nice and straight. So when I go to the machine, I can make sure everything's all lined up, right sides together, and I don't have any issues of it going too far off the edges. And because I like to chain piece, make it go a little faster, for those of you that are comfortable with it, I generally will just have all of these ready and then pin away, get a whole bunch of these ready to sew, and sew essentially all in session. So chain piecing is where you just keep sewing section after section all together, all at one time. Then I cut them apart, press, and then do the next step. If you're new and that sounds scary, please do just one block at a time and do kind of like I'm doing for this demo here. Just sit and do one at a time, go all the way around, and then do the next block. So whatever you're comfortable with. But for me, I like to get things done quickly. So I get them all pinned and ready, and then I go to the machine and I'm gonna sew them. We'll show you how it's gonna look at the end. All right, so for those of you that may just be starting to attempt chain piecing, haven't done it before, let's just give you a couple little tips. As you see, I've already done one block. I'm starting to do the second one. And so I've just done a couple stitches in, that way I can take my pin out, and then I hold the end where I'm going to finish up and the bottom pin is. And I just give a little pull, make sure both my fabrics line up on the raw edges. And the nice thing about this machine is it has dual feed, so it's also going to help make sure that I don't get any bunching or puckering by the time I get to the end. So these are just some helpful tips to make sure that if you are going to attempt chain piecing, you don't have any issues in the end and wonder why I'm crazy and do it. So these are just how I do my chain piecing to make sure I get as much done as quickly as possible. So I'm going to finish this one up and I'll get the other sides on and I'll show you how it's going to look. So in the end, your block should look like this. You're going to have your center block and then your background surrounding the block. So go ahead, grab up all your squares and your strips, get them all sewn together, and get ready for next week. Until then, happy stitching.